G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. I'm here this time to share with you a natural law perspective on the COVID protests. This is based on a paper that I recently had published, accepted for publication in Australia's premier public political science journal, and it articulates why people are angry, why people are worried, and hopefully you'll see that academics are concerned about events. That even though most of us have lost nothing, we can feel the pain of people and we can empathize with their situation. So, people, first of all, let's get it straight. Why are people protesting? They're not protesting against COVID. COVID's an inanimate virus. Our protest against it will achieve nothing. They're protesting about is how public policy architects have responded to COVID-19. And they're protesting about things like lockdowns. I believe we have the longest lockdowns in the world in Victoria. The lockdowns in New South Wales at present where I live. They're protesting about things like mask mandates. You must wear a mask all the time outside of your home in some situations, even though you'd be absolutely nowhere near anyone. They're protesting about particularly these vaccine mandates where we try to coerce or legally compel certain people to get vaccinations, and we treat them differently if they fail to respond to our coercion and manipulation. Now these things, all these things, should be extremely troublesome for natural law philosophers. I would expect that all ministers of religion in the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions would be most disturbed about these because these mandates run contrary to their theologies. They run contrary to the natural law tradition, which all three monotheistic faiths subscribe to. But these mandates and interventions concern everyday people. I think a lot of the people who are saying this is just a bunch of yobbos being angry, trashing things for the hell of it, they really need to pause a second and put themselves in the position that these people find themselves in. Some of these people haven't been able to work for a year because of public policy response to a virus. Even though they may not personally be at much risk at all, if any, they've been prevented from working. They haven't been able to make repayments on their houses. They've watched their businesses die. They've watched their relationships die. Imagine being, if you lived in a small apartment, it wouldn't matter how much you loved your family, being contained in a small apartment with children and a wife or a husband for many, many months is going to put strain on any relationship. They've watched their children's education being disrupted. These public policy interventions have been very harsh. They've been disproportionate in their effects. The elite, the public servants, the scholars have got away with very little damage. The people who benefit most from the health intervention have actually got extra things given to them on top of that. They were the beneficiaries of quite substantial fiscal stimulus. I'm talking here about people on age pensions, people on disability pensions. And that's fine. I don't have any problem with people being helped. But it does explain why some people can't understand these protesters. It does explain why our politicians and our policemen want to crack down even more harshly on these people who have lost everything. Because the truth of the matter is, our politicians, our police, lost very little, if anything. They need to pause and think about the morality of what's being done. So there's two things that natural law philosophers are feel are very key concepts. The first one is human dignity. Now, natural law traditions that have been developed by religion says that human dignity is something that God gave you, Hashem gave you. Human dignity is your right to pursue your existential ends without undue interference. What does that mean? Given your existence, your circumstances, it's your right to choose and chart your own course, unless your right conflicts with someone else's right, or you're going to do yourself some terrible harm, in which case it might be reasonable for others to interfere. Now, the common good is often at odds with human dignity. What is the common good? It's the help accruing to people as a result of their cooperation, which is more than the mere sum of parts. The common good is the sole reason, the sole source of legitimacy for a government. The whole purpose, the only reason that you can give, good reason that you can give for government, is to cultivate and protect the common good. Now, the problem is when governments believe that the common good is everything, and that it somehow gives them the right to totally erode and smash human dignity. It does not. When they do so, they actually undermine the legitimacy, the moral legitimacy of government itself. So, the common good is all about helping people to flourish. People are social animals, as Aristotle said. We need the help of others to flourish. And the government is an important way of coordinating that common good. It's the supreme guardian of the common good. But remember, the common good, the whole point of the common good, is for people to flourish. Now, if you destroy human dignity in order to promote the common good, what are you doing? You're trying to get people to flourish, but you're destroying their ability to choose, plan, and reflect, which is absolutely essential for them to flourish. So you've been left with an absurdity. You've been left with common good, but no human dignity that could possibly benefit from that common good. It's a bit like a person suddenly deciding, okay, I'm going to lose weight so I'm healthier so I can live longer. And that person decides never to eat again, and they starve themselves to death. Okay, they lost weight, but they've totally missed the whole point of the exercise, because they're not healthier, they're dead. And when we disproportionately preference common good over human dignity, we do exactly the same as that misguided dieter. And that's what we have done, sadly. And what's really interesting is if you look at the research, there's a really clever study, global study done of different government responses and how they were enforced through legislation, through mandates, or simply by giving people good information and communicating well. And what it shows is that mandating or legislating or coercing someone to do something in response to COVID-19 only has a tiny effect at the margin. Now, natural law philosophers could have told government people this from that get-go, because natural law philosophy is all about understanding human nature. That's where the nature bit comes in. People are rational creatures, and a key idea in natural law philosophy is practical reason, is having good reasons for acting. And if government had given good people good reasons for acting, most people would have complied. Remember early on with COVID, we were told we just shut down for 2 weeks just so we could get the hospitals up to speed, get the ventilators, etc., so we could deal with this. It was almost universal compliance. I don't think it was legally enforced or enforceable at that stage, but everyone said, yeah, makes sense, this is a serious thing, makes sense to get ourselves prepared. 19 months later, it's still happening. But where's the good reasons? You know, we've had 19 months to get the hospital systems up to scratch and the right treatment protocols in. Where's the good reasons? And this is what people are objecting to. When we deny people good reasons for acting, when we deny them choice, we constrain their ability to reflect. We're not treating them like humans anymore. We're not treating them like rational animals anymore. We're treating them like mere animals. So, as I often say, I've got a small farm here. I've got stock on the farm, animal on the farm. You know, it's normal practice annually to vaccinate them. I don't sit down and tell my goats, hey, this vaccine's to stop you from getting tetanus and pulpy kidney and the possible side effects of this and this, and would you like to consent to the vaccine? No, I just shove it in and give them vaccination. By the same token, you know, night time I lock the milkers away so I can milk them first in the morning. I don't say, look girls, I'm locking you away because it's more convenient for me, and does that suit you, or would you like to go about this in a different way? I don't do any of these things because goats and my animals on my farm aren't rational beings. They're not capable of complex reason. But people are. People are rational creatures, and they will respond to good reasons. I've seen it so many times in my work with community. If you give people the facts, you speak to them openly and honestly, and give them choices and good information, the far majority of people will make good decisions. You always have a couple of rat bags that will buck the system and make poor choices, but you'll have that whether you implement oppressive draconian legislation or not, whether you're out there pepper spraying people in the face and shooting protesters in the back or not. You always have a couple of rat bags that do the wrong thing. But what you've done by eroding human dignity is you've treated people like animals instead of humans. But you've done what St. Thomas Aquinas said you would do if you made legislation too oppressive. He said you will harden people's hearts. They'll lose all respect for the lawgivers, for the law enforcers, and you will incite them to riot. And what Thomas Aquinas told you would happen 800 years ago is what is happening, and you ignored the warnings. You ignored the natural law philosophy. You ignored the morality of public policy entirely. You know, public policy architects had great intentions. You wanted to save people's lives. Wonderful, I agree. But you can't do so by destroying human dignity. It's just not right. It doesn't matter how you dress it up. So in conclusion, the emphasis has all been on physical health and the common good. And they're noble and great goals. But you know what? Moral health and human dignity are far more important than physical health and the common good. Without human dignity, the common good is simply an absurdity. Without moral health, we don't have a good society. People can't have a good life. The whole thing's been misconceived. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to talking with you again. Goodbye.